Hello everyone, I'm Forrest McFreelova, and this is Speedplay France and Hearts of Iron 4, number 20. We left off fighting an air war over northern France, and not controlling the English Channel whatsoever. We also have a massive number of our military forces in Africa, and the goal had for a while been to just do some harm to the Allied armies in Africa, without really shortening the front so much that their armies are going to get out of Africa in general. However, well, first of all, we're just going to keep on popping back over to the air war. But I realized that with our KD ratio, something like 9-to-1 right now, that freeing up our units is going to be worth having the Allies not have this massive theater to funnel all of their forces into. And that I think it would ultimately be worthwhile for our military to just destroy the African front. Maybe make this world a little bit less like 1984, what with us being Eurasia, them being Oceania, and Japan being just East Asia. And actually just clear out Africa and win some major victory against the Allied forces there. So we, with that in mind, just do some major encirclements, perhaps not the most major of encirclements, but fairly decent ones nevertheless. And generally just try to do what harm we can to the Allied armies. I wouldn't say that we've been capable of doing this at any point, however we're definitely doing it now, and it's going spectacularly. It's been something we've slowly been pushing up to with our first press in East Africa, then our press in West Africa, and now this overall full frontal attack. Well, not really full frontal, but, considerably significant attack on just a majority of the areas where we can really just expect to make breakthroughs. And that's what it's going to be about, breakthroughs. We're not just attacking headlong across the entire front, we are just encircling Allied units and hopefully destroying them with relative ease, the likes of which we would not have if we just charged down the whole front and pushed them all to South Africa. We also have the first Marines ready to go. We can just upgrade the Marines further, which we're going to probably have to do if we're ever going to successfully land in the UK. And yeah, that's basically the goal, is we are going to just keep moving forward, destroy whatever presence they have in Africa, and once we have all of these units freed up, depending on the situation with the air war, we will either launch our invasion of the United Kingdom proper, or clear Japan off of Asia and then launch a naval invasion of Japan because it'll be easier. So it really depends on how the situation progresses and how comfortable I feel with launching a naval invasion of the UK and how likely I think it will be to succeed. We've had a few false starts because apparently the AI has improved, or perhaps it just got more difficult. We do go ahead and just start sending our air force over to the English Channel, which appears to be winning, and that is just quite nice. So hopefully we'll just attrition them down over time. And that brings up another point. If we can't attrition them down over time, we may have to take over Japan and knock the Axis out of the war for good, in order that we'll actually bring that to a conclusion and not have to worry about the occupation penalties for really those fights. And we'll just be able to get their full industrial capabilities on our side as basically just integral parts of the French nation, which the whole world is supposed to be by the end of it. So yes, with that in mind, we are just pressing down throughout Africa. It's going decently well for us. We've made tremendous gains, although admittedly not very many resources or factories. Although that doesn't really matter all that much so long as we destroy Allied armies and free up our own units for use on other fronts. And those are the real main objectives here. And it is going decently well. The battle for the English Channel is going somewhat alright. We do start sending our ships out, and apparently that just turned the whole thing against us, as the British have a considerable number of other aerial units, such as bombers and naval bombers. Meanwhile, though, in Africa, things are going great, so that's at least a consolation. And we're going to just keep pressing throughout Africa and hoping for the best, which is working for us decently well, and will hopefully have at least something of a long-term benefit. We are also apparently now winning-ish, never mind neutral again in the air war. So it doesn't seem as though that's going ideally. So we do start pulling our navy back. Hopefully we'll be able to do better by just focusing on their fighters alone. At any rate, though, we are almost a quarter of the way to producing a nuclear weapon, which is pretty great. It will hopefully shorten the war considerably, although that does remain to be seen. And generally, though, we're just pressing forward where we can and just hoping for the best. We are somehow getting new factories, which is pretty good. Not really going to question that. I guess Belgian Congo had some factories hidden somewhere in the just forests and jungles and whatnot. I guess the Belgians probably built some in the last few years they've been in exile. At any rate, though, we're hopefully going to cut off all of these allied forces up in the northern portion of, well, I guess Middle Africa. And yeah, hopefully then we'll just be able to encircle them, destroy all those, and probably split off our forces into a couple groups. We do look at the kill death for our fighters, something like 18,000 evidently are gone or were gone. I'm not really sure if that's accurate or anything. Moving on, though, we are just pressing forward in Africa, and that's really the main thing that's occurring in this episode, is just the destruction of Africa, or at least the Allied presence therein. And that is going very well. As you can see, the AI really just wasn't capable of doing anything to prevent us from just overwhelming their forces, and that's pretty nice. It may hurt us in the long term, although it is at least satisfying in the short term, which is perhaps not really worth anything, but still satisfying nonetheless in the time that it was occurring. And besides, if we can't actually launch a naval invasion of the United Kingdom, since they would just destroy our forces right now, then what else would we do but win on the fronts that we can fight? Now, it looks as though we are moderately winning in the English Channel, which is good. Hopefully we'll get that to actually being a full-on victory, although that does remain to be seen. And other than that, we are creating new groups. We can actually perhaps start another naval invasion once we do get everything cleaned up, so we will have to transfer troops over for that. And now it says 15,000 fighters lost, just kind of going either way, really. We do send our ships over again, with the intent being that hopefully we'll be able to destroy all of their anti-naval components, although we are at relatively low naval or aerial superiority. We do go ahead and just start lowering the production queues for a lot of our land armies, so that we can use those additional production lines to just build more fighters. I decided that heavy fighters are probably going to be the best things, so we go ahead and just produce some of those. And yeah, hopefully heavy fighters will make up a decent amount of our air force in some amount of time. They do seem to have pretty decent stats. Admittedly, none of our fighters really are just like the end-all be-all in any particular category, so it'll be probably good for us to balance them out a bit. With that being said, we have to click through a whole bunch of battle results. We are just losing a lot of submarines in this conflict, which is not exactly ideal. However, the British Navy appears to just be completely gone somewhere. Perhaps they're out fighting the Japanese, in which case it would probably be for the best that we don't end the war with the Axis, as that would just get them back in the English Channel and, you know, thereby harass us again. So who's really to say? I don't really know where the British Navy is. It should be somewhere. And the fact that it's not by their home islands kind of is worrying in a way. At any rate, though, we are pressing through into South Africa now. Hopefully we'll be able to just destroy South Africa, get the Allies completely off of the African continent, and yeah, just be done with this whole theater. From there, we could probably go focus on China. We also do build something like 5 new additional nuclear reactors, with the intent being to just really speed up production of nuclear materials and bombs, and hopefully just turn this boring old world war into a global nuclear war. So yeah, that's maybe something intense there, but we do also go ahead and create some marine divisions to just increase the likelihood of our naval invasion succeeding and actually getting through a bit. We go ahead and reform our air forces a little bit, just go ahead and merge some groups. Hopefully that will help them be somewhat more efficient. We also have some areas where we are not winning the air war just because we don't really have any forces there. We deal with that. Back in Africa, we are cleaning up what's left of South African resistance, and that seems to be going pretty well. We are losing a lot of convoys in the Adriatic, which I just kind of ignored. We'll probably have to go send some forces up to that Probably just some naval bombers. I assume we have some. We also are researching Marines Tier 3. Hopefully that research will be done by the time our Marines are done, and that'll hopefully just intermesh pretty well. We are losing manpower considerably in this air war, which is a bit concerning, so hopefully we can bring it more or less to a close end. We also do send those naval bombers over to the Adriatic. And yeah, so with that all said and done, there are some areas we're just not going to bother with. We do manage to clean up all of Africa, sans Portugal, which we might actually deal with, but probably not if we go after any other theater first, simply because why would we do that? We also go ahead and set up a potential third naval invasion route. Maybe we can just clear the skies and seas over around somewhere different and just attack there. Hopefully that would work. I really don't know. Who's really to say? We also are setting up more aerial campaigns just for various other regions since the Allies try to sneak through. There we go. Anyway, we launch a naval invasion. The idea behind this being, unfortunately, it looks as though they're getting all sunk and we actually lose 10 divisions. The thought was that hopefully with all of our navy in that area, it would provide ample distraction for their air forces. That did not prove to be correct. And we ended up losing 10 divisions of mechanized forces, which is a incredibly painful loss, and one that actually very significantly is detrimental to our ability to conduct war efforts. Those units could have been used in much better ways. With that failure, we're probably going to have to look towards more long-term solutions. I don't know what we can do to speed up the destruction of the British Air Force. Most likely that will have to be launching naval invasions, despite my now... Probably I should have learned that lesson before, but my now rather hard-learned lesson that we should not launch a naval invasion unless we just dominate the sea and the air in which it's going to take place. The loss of those 10 divisions is a very heavy thing, and not really an ideal one whatsoever. Luckily, we're about 88% of the way to a nuclear bomb, and it looks as though we might be able to seize control over the skies over London, just enough to hopefully get to 75% and maybe eventually nuke them. So hopefully we will win the attritional air war, slowly weakening the Allied air forces to the point that they will no longer be able to function as such, and hopefully allow us to inevitably launch an invasion and destroy the United Kingdom and their empire once and for all. However, we have managed to finish our first nuclear weapon. We are deploying our strategic bombers, and with all that more or less ready, we just have to send a few more of our air forces over, hopefully get decisive control over the skies over England. They are contesting it significantly, although it looks as though they can't. Okay, they've significantly focused on the English Channel. When we come back, we might nuke them, if we're able to. The war against Japan isn't going to at all, and the war against the Allies, we have lost a significant number of forces, mainly because of that lost naval invasion, but we have done quite a bit of harm to them. Arcadia is a little bit worse than it should be, but we will progress. Thank you very much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. When we come back tomorrow, we will nuke the British capital, if we're able. Thanks again for watching. Have a great day.